Welcome, darling, to the dark side of paradise. I'm Salem Ash, and tonight I'll be your guide into the shadows. Have you ever found yourself longing for peace, only to discover something waiting in the silence? Tonight's tale takes us to a black sandy beach in Hawaii, where the breeze is warm, the waves are eternal, and something unseen is watching. So light a candle, lock the door, and let me take you somewhere haunted. This is The Man in the Waves. When she first saw the house, it took her breath away. Perched alone at the edge of a black sand beach on the big island of Hawaii, the home looked like something out of a dream. 2 stories of worn white wood, wraparound porches, and rustling palms swaying in the salty wind. It was paradise. Or at least that was what Alina told herself when she signed the papers. She had come to Hawaii to escape the bustling, cold secrecy of New York had left her hollow, like a shell that had been picked clean over time. Her childhood had been marked by silence, raised by a mother more interested in wine than warmth. Alina had always been lonely, even when surrounded by millions. So, the idea of being alone on an island didn't frighten her. In fact, it felt like kind of a peace, a clean slate, a fresh breath of salted air. But peace has its price. From the first night, the house seemed aware. It started with small things, the sound of footsteps pacing the porch in the early hours of the morning, even though there was no one there. The porch swing swaying gently on windless nights. The faint scent of cologne, something woodsy and masculine, wafting through the hallway as she passed by. Or a single seashell on her pillow one morning, delicate and white, that she had never seen before. She blamed the ocean at first, the wind, her overactive imagination. Maybe she was just unwinding, decompressing from city life. But the signs grew harder and harder to ignore. The books she hadn't touched moved from the shelf to the table. Her favorite teacup, a chipped porcelain thing from her childhood, appeared beside her bed one morning, even though she always kept it in the kitchen. One night, she woke up to find all the windows wide open, the curtains billowing like veils, though she was certain she'd locked them before going to bed. Then came the whispers. They weren't words exactly, more like breathy suggestions, heard just at the edge of sleep. She started waking up at the same time every night, 3:17 a.m., only to find the room just a little colder and the shadows just a little deeper. The turning point came on the 7th night. You see, she had been dreaming. One of those vivid, surreal dreams. The one that leaves your heart racing and your mouth dry. Yeah, those. Well, in it, she stood on the beach just before dawn, watching the tide roll in, and someone called her name. Not shouted, whispered. A man's voice, familiar, kind. When she woke, her feet were covered in black sand. Shaken, Alina decided she couldn't ignore it anymore. She contacted a local paranormal investigator. It was an older woman named Malia. She wore long skirts and carried bundles of sage everywhere she went. Now Malia arrived the next morning and stepped into the house like she already knew it well. She lit her sage, she muttered prayers in Hawaiian, and she wandered through the rooms where her eyes half closed. Hours passed. Finally, Malia returned from the upstairs hallway and sat across from Alina at the kitchen table. "He followed you here," she said simply. Alina felt something in her chest drop. "What do you mean?" Malia explained. There was a presence in the house, gentle but desperate, protective, a soul who had watched her with quite sorrow. Not a stranger, but someone from a time in her life fogged with loneliness and unspoken dreams. Someone who had seen her pain long before Hawaii's sun touched her skin. presence that lingered from her New York days. Not a lover, but perhaps someone who had hoped to be. As Malia spoke, a memory stirred. A boy who worked at the dusty used bookstore down the street. Alina used to stop in after school, pretending to browse while secretly hoping he'd be there. He had eyes like storms, restless but deep. Once he had pressed a small book of poetry into her hands and said, "You deserve words that see you." She never forgot that. Never saw him again either. Until now. Malia nodded, as if hearing her thoughts. "He died not long after you moved away," she said. Alina didn't cry, but that night she left the window open on purpose. She brewed 2 cups of tea and placed one beside her on the porch swing. The air was still. The ocean hissed in the distance. And for the first time, she spoke into the darkness. "You don't have to hide." She waited. Nothing moved. Nothing changed. But the warmth beside her grew. She didn't see him. Not really. Just a shimmer of something at the corner of her vision. The feeling of being watched, not with malice, but with love, with longing. In the nights that followed, the house felt less empty. The air felt warmer. The footsteps still came, but they no longer frightened her. Sometimes, when she read by the fire, she felt a presence lean in, just to listen. And in moments of deep sadness, she would smell his cologne and even feel the faintest brush of fingertips at her shoulder. And in her dreams, the man would sit beside her on the beach, watching the tide roll in. He never aged. He never changed. Sometimes he would smile. Once, he reached out and brushed the hair from her face. She woke up crying. They never spoke, but she was never lonely again. That was sweet. Well, thank you for joining me in the dark tonight, darling. If you feel a presence beside you now, maybe don't look too closely. Some spirits don't like to be seen. If you enjoyed this tale, press that little subscribe button. I'll be waiting for you here in the quiet, in the shadows, and with more stories to keep you up at night. So until next time, sleep tight. And remember, whatever you do, don't answer when someone whispers your name. Well, hello again, darklings. It's Salem Ash. Tonight's story is a retelling of a classic tale, updated for our glowing, gadget-obsessed age. But the warning is still the same. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Welcome to The Monkey's Paw Rewired. In a small, rain-slicked suburb outside of Seattle, the Thompsons lived a quiet, tech-savvy life. Their home was modern, minimalistic, and filled with smart devices. Mirrors that doubled as touchscreens, lights that obeyed whispered commands. Even their coffee maker could be summoned with a single word. Natalie Thompson was a software developer. Her husband, Chris, worked in cybersecurity. Their son, Max, was a sophomore in high school, constantly gaming or live streaming from his room. Everything in their life was automated, predictable, and safe. Until the package arrived. It came on a Thursday. No return address, just a sleek black box with a strange silver logo embossed on top, a curled paw print. Natalie assumed it was something Chris ordered from a niche tech site, but when they opened it, they found something far stranger than a gadget. Inside was an oddly beautiful object, a small technical sculpture shaped like a monkey's paw. Polished chrome bones, fine copper wiring for tendons, and tiny glowing nodes at each knuckle. There was a folded card inside. 3 wishes, no returns, use wisely. Now Chris laughed. It's gotta be some kind of an art piece, maybe an ARG. Max was fascinated. It's totally cyberpunk. I bet it's part of a viral campaign. That night, just for fun, Chris said, I wish we had the PS7 prototype. The one Sony hasn't even announced yet. Nothing happened. But the next morning, there it was. A matte black console with unfamiliar ports glowing faintly on Max's desk. They stared at it in disbelief. Natalie was the first to break the silence. It has to be a prank. Or maybe a test unit? But we didn't sign up for anything, Chris muttered. Max turned it on. The screen flickered to life. Games no one had ever heard of. Graphics way too smooth to be real. And in the corner, a small paw print icon. Max couldn't stop thinking about the power of the paw, the fame, the possibilities. That night, he made the first wish. He whispered, "I wish I was famous, really famous." The lights flickered, his phone buzzed. Then again and again, notifications flooded in. His Twitch account exploded overnight. Millions of views, viral clips, endorsements, fan edits. He was famous. And then came the hate, the obsession, doxing, threats. A girl from Oregon showed up outside their house. She was claiming that Max had spoken to her in her dreams. Another sent a video of herself carving his name into her skin. The line between admiration and madness definitely blurred. Their home became a fortress. Chris added security cameras, biometric locks. Max started seeing things in the mirror, a reflection that didn't always match his own. The paw sat on his nightstand, silent but waiting. One evening, Max was brushing his teeth, staring absently into the mirror, when the reflection of the bathroom behind him moved. A figure stood just outside the door in the reflection, pale and smiling. Max turned sharply. Nothing. But the feeling lingered. A chill. A presence. Later that night, Natalie awoke to a scream. Max had gone downstairs to check the front camera feed, and when Natalie found him, he was lying on the foyer floor, blood pooling under his head. His phone was shattered beside him. Security footage showed a woman in a hoodie entering the home, but no doors or windows were breached. Her face was never fully visible, just long hair, a wide grin, and a weapon clutched tight. She had been stalking Max online. She believed he belonged to her. Natalie, now broken with grief and rage, cradled the chrome paw in her hands. Oh, I wish I had my son back. Then the lights cut out. For the moment, silence. Then a knock at the door. Chris froze. He whispered, "Please don't let it be him." But Natalie was already walking to the door. She opened it, and no one was there. Only the cold wind of the night. She looked up and down the block. No one to be found. No one to be seen. She looked down. The paw, now drained of its glow, sat curled tightly in her trembling hands. Well, hello again, my darklings. It's Salem Ash. Have you been enjoying my tales? There aren't many yet, but there's always more to come. Tonight's story is a slow descent into obsession, memory, and madness. This one's a psychological spiral. It's all wrapped in soft light and flickering shadows. Just the way we like it, isn't it? Welcome to Echoes in the Static. Clara moved into apartment 4B on a rainy Tuesday. It was the kind of rain that makes the streets look like broken mirrors. Her new building was old, pre-war, with rusting radiators and floral wallpaper that clung to the walls like secrets. She was freshly single, she was newly employed, and she was silently unraveling. Her apartment, though, had charm. It had high ceilings, large windows, and a vintage intercom system mounted next to the door. The kind with a little brass speaker and a bakelite button that stuck when you pressed it. The landlady, Mrs. Greaves, had been very clear. No guests after 10, no pets, and the intercom, don't bother with it. It doesn't work. But that first night at 3:12 a.m., the intercom buzzed. Clara bolted upright in bed. Her heart was galloping. She waited. She listened. Nothing. The next morning, she laughed it off. The building was old, probably a short, or maybe a ghost trying to order takeout. The second night, it buzzed again. Then a voice. Clara. That was all. Just a whisper through the static. Male, calm, almost warm. She couldn't sleep after that, of course. Would you be able to? The third night, it spoke again. You forgot me, she heard. She ripped the unit from the wall the next day. The wires hung, curled like veins from the drywall. Satisfied, she went back to bed. But the buzz came again anyway. Clara, why did you leave me? The voice began appearing in other places now, too. The television hissed her name. The phone rang from an unknown number, and when she picked it up, it was only breathing. Once in the grocery store, a man standing too close whispered, "You broke your promise." Claire began to isolate, to question, and to remember. She did remember there had been a boy years ago in a foster home in upstate New York. They were close, too close maybe. He had a stutter, soft eyes. His name, she couldn't remember his name, but he obviously remembered hers. She started seeing him then, at the end of the hall, in the corners of reflections. His features were fuzzy, like a photo with too much noise, but the eyes were always the same, accusing and alone. Now the voice changed over time. It became less human, glitched almost, fragmented, as if it were struggling to stay whole. You left me, the house, the fire. There had been a fire in her final placement. She remembered she escaped through the window, but someone else hadn't. She began to believe the voice was real now, not a delusion, not psychosis, a haunting, not of a place, but of memory. So she hired a paranormal team, young guys with expensive cameras and absolutely no chill. They stayed the night. They recorded nothing, absolutely nothing. But in the morning, one of the guys refused to come back inside. He was pale. He was shaking. He just said, "Don't go near the mirror in the hallway. He talks to you through that now." Obviously, she covered that mirror with a sheet, and then she burned it. But that night, she dreamt of fire and a boy screaming her name. Waking up, she found the smell of smoke lingering on her skin. She called her mother, no answer. She looked up her old case files. Closed, record sealed, but the names, she found his. Elijah Darnell. Gone at only 11 from smoke inhalation, locked in his bedroom, no one came. Clara was moved the very next day to a new home with a new name, but he remembered. The voice now came from her laptop, from her television, even from her toaster once. Could you imagine? What would you do? What would you do if you heard a voice coming from your toaster? Each time the voice became more and more fragmented. I waited. I waited. You promised you'd never leave me. This time, she decided to speak back. She pressed the broken intercom and she whispered, "I'm sorry. I was scared. I didn't know how to save you." The apartment, believe it or not, fell silent for days. Then, the last night, the power died. From the hallway, she heard footsteps. Slow footsteps that sounded wet and dragging. She held her breath and hid under the covers like a child. The door creaked open slow. He whispered, "Come with me now." A shadow climbed into the bed right alongside of her. She tried to scream, but no sound came. Only a thick, humming silence. He pressed his hand to her chest. His hand was cold. His hand was trembling. And suddenly, she was back. She was in that house, back in the fire. All the smoke. She could hear the sound of the wood cracking and glass windows popping. She wasn't a child this time. She was the ghost. In the morning, apartment 4B was empty. The door was locked from the inside. All that remained was the broken intercom, quietly buzzing over and over and over again. Occasionally, it whispered one word. My word, was that crazy or what? What would you have done? Like a shadow climbs in bed with you? What would you have done? I might have enjoyed it, but, to each his own. So thank you for wandering into the static with me once again. Memory is a ghost, my darklings, and sometimes it lingers longer than it should. If you liked this tale, like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, don't press buttons that no longer work unless you want the past to answer.